Hello and welcome to The Productive Writer. I'm your host, Sean McLaughlin, and this is episode 7. Today we're going to talk a bit about research, and yes, I'm finally back. It's been a few weeks since I last did an episode because I've been buried in Madrid lockdown and busy with deadlines. I've been keeping myself busy in lockdown just to stay sane. Gave myself some pretty tight deadlines and production quotas and got through them all. And now things are opening up a bit here in Spain. We seem to have gotten a handle on the coronavirus. And I actually went out and had lunch with friends yesterday. It was amazing. So yes, things are looking up. So anyway, today I want to talk about research. Now, no matter what kind of book that you're writing, I'm going to focus here mainly on fiction. You are going to have to do some research, whether it's complex or simple. You could be doing anything from tracing the intricacies of early Italian medieval politics to simply name checking a shop in a famous city. Whatever it is, you got to do your homework and you got to make sure it's right, because if you don't, guaranteed somebody in the reviews will point it out. So you want to reduce the amount of mistakes in your book, if at all possible, and the best way to do that is know your subject. So one of the good things about researching is not only is it, of course, required and essential for any good book, but it also helps with ideas. If you're doing, say, a novel set in contemporary New York City, and you're looking through the local newspapers and finding what restaurants are hot this season, all that sort of thing. Well, not this season, but in general, what restaurants are hot. You will it'll spark ideas in your head for setting and plot points and various things that you can do. So I found that the more research you do, the more ideas you get. Of course, you don't want to get too bogged down on it, but what you do want to do as much as possible is read up on your subject, see pictures, try to watch movies on YouTube about it. There's plenty out there. The internet's full of stuff, but the best thing to do, of course, is, if at all possible, is to travel there. That's why I spent a lot of time in North Africa, because I have a series set in Tangier in the 1950s and Egypt in 1919. Now, obviously, I can't be there in those time periods, but I read a lot of material from those periods, and seeing the land itself, talking to the people, it really helps. And one of the things that it does the best is it really brings out all five senses, because your reader wants to be taken on a journey, especially if you're writing about some place that's different, that they might not have been to, or they loved and they want to go back via your work. Tell them what the market smells like in the spice stalls in Tangier, or what it sounds like when the muezzin is giving the call to prayer over the skyline of Cairo. These things are things that people want to read, and so by traveling to these places, you can get so much. I have spent a lot of time in North Africa, and a lot of my firsthand experiences have ended up in books. The novel I did about the Syrian refugee crisis, The Last Hotel Room, actually has several descriptive passages, which were essentially me in Tangier looking around and just describing what I see, because it was happening in contemporary Tangier, and so it just fit. So that can really help. But one thing that you should remember is that if you can't travel, that's fine. Not everyone has the money or the time. People have obligations. I don't get to travel nearly as much as I'd like. But you can do a ton of book research, and you can do a lot of internet research, and you can talk to people from there. I often have quick questions. All sorts of things come up. Because I have so much historical literature, for example, I need to write about people who smoke, because in the 1950s everybody smoked. But I don't smoke. I've never smoked. I don't like the habit. I never liked tobacco. And so I don't know what it feels like to have that first cigarette of the morning. So I asked my Facebook friends. I have several friends who answered because they smoke, and it's so funny because these people who've never written anything creatively were suddenly waxing eloquent about how wonderful the first cigarette of the morning was. So that sort of thing helps. I did the same thing when I asked a cigar smoker, why are Cuban cigars special? I have no idea. I just know that everybody wants to smoke Cuban cigars rather than other cigars, and he explained it to me. So these things help. Always ask. People are generally helpful, I've found. So it's not a problem. Um, you want to get the little details as good as possible, especially when it's something that people are obsessive about, like tobacco, guns. People get really finicky about guns. You got to get these things right. And if you're talking about a real location in contemporary times, you got to make sure that the interstate gets off where you're saying it gets off. These things are important. And these are fairly easy to check. But one thing you have to worry about with research is overdoing it. A lot of people I see, especially beginning writers, will just dump everything they learned into their book. You don't need to do that. You need to show confidence. You need to know more than you are putting on paper. So you show a confidence in your subject. But you don't have to tell the reader everything you learned, especially no info dumps. Don't have these long passages where you just go on and on and on about all sorts of details of stuff. Now, what you are writing will dictate how much you can put in. For example, in my Masked Man of Cairo series, which is set in 1919, it's about an Egyptologist, well, an antiquities dealer, who deals in ancient Egyptian artifacts, both real and fake, and he solves mysteries in his spare time. Now, the people who are going to read this are people who are interested in archaeology, Egyptology, Egypt, travel, the Middle East, that sort of thing. So you can add a bit more. You can go into more detail, and I do have characters discussing things like Shabtis or Old Kingdom sarcophagi. I don't go on at length. I don't want to show off my knowledge because that quickly bores the reader. They see right through that sort of thing. But you do want to give the reader what they came for. Now, you probably don't need to do that for a contemporary mystery set in Chicago. Because even if you haven't been to Chicago, you kind of know what Chicago looks like. And it's an American city, so everybody kind of knows what American cities look like. You don't need to go into this deep, thick description unless it's essential for something like a murder scene or a fight that's about to kick off. But in general, you have to let the setting and the period dictate how much of your research you show. And you have to always be careful that you're not showing off your research because that bores the reader and it gets quickly distracting. As a final message, with your research, have fun with it. Do a lot of it. Don't use it as an excuse for not writing. We discussed some of the excuses for not writing in a previous episode. Get writing. Write every day. That's important. And also, don't sweat it because inevitably you're going to have mistakes. Like, for example, in my Cairo series, it's set in 1919. So I needed a guidebook to the city, and I found a Baedeker's guide from 1923 to Cairo, specifically Cairo, with a beautifully detailed map, and Egypt in general. So it was a perfect tourist guide, and it had everything from tram times to how much things cost and where the hotels are, this, that, and the other, everything. And it was perfect. And I thought, really, I mean, this is from 1923, and my book is set in 1919. Nothing major will have changed, right? Wrong. I had a major intersection in Cairo changed its name between 1919 and 1923. And an old Middle Eastern historian who's lived in Cairo for years and has been writing weighty academic tomes about the Middle East for longer than I have been alive pointed this out to me. But he's like, don't worry, old chap. No one else is going to notice. I'm like, okay, it's fine. And if it's something that minor, you don't have to sweat it. And it will amuse the one or two readers who actually catch it. And they'll let it slide. Just make sure you don't have any real zingers out there. So anyway, that's it for this time around. Have fun doing research. Make sure you write every day. And keep at it. And I will try to be a bit more regular with these posts from now on because I'm getting a bit more of a normal life. So until next time, keep on writing. Hit the subscribe button. And like and comment if you want. And if you have any other subjects that you'd like me to cover, feel free to add them in the comment section. Keep on writing.